Alright, hello everyone. Hi, how's everybody doing? I hope you're all doing well. Hi. And today we're doing multi-step equations, as you can see right up there. And so I know that you've got your notes, your pencil, your calculator, and you are ready to go. So let's get started. So today is pretty much the same as the previous 2 days, except we're going to mash a bunch of different steps together. Instead of just having 1 or 2, now we're going to have 3, maybe 4, maybe we'll even go crazy and have 5 one time. All right, so here we go. This very first one, remember my advice is whenever you don't have a number in front of x, you always want to put a 1 there. Now, how is this one different from the previous ones? Well, if I put my line right through here, you'll see that this time we have 2 different x's up there. We have an x here with a 2, and then we have another x here with a 1. So we have 2 different x's. So those are like terms. We combine like terms that are on the same side. So I always circle them just like this. Go ahead, put a circle around them. Although this seems maybe like a silly step to you, I'm going to tell you that circling those is going to be really important for you. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier. So just trust me, play along and do it, and you'll get a lot fewer mistakes in your problems. All right, so 2 plus 1, that gives me 3. So if I have 2 x's here, another x there, there are 3 x's. Now at this point, you're not going to think at all. Don't think, just copy. So you're going to take the 12, and you're going to copy that down, plus 12. And then you're going to copy the equals, and you're going to copy the 78. An important thing about algebra is there's a lot of copying. Now, don't copy off of other people, don't copy off Photomath, but do copy off yourself. Look at the line previous, and you're going to drop down a bunch of stuff pretty much every time. Although this might seem like a waste of time, it is not. Trust me, showing your work will make you have way fewer mistakes. And when we get to long problems, then you'll want to not make any mistakes because you'll have to go back through a whole bunch more steps. All right, now you should be set. You should know what to do from the previous ones. Over here, this is where x is on the left side, so we're going to start with a thing that's not touching the x. That's plus 12. The opposite of plus is minus, so let's minus 12 from both sides. 12 minus 12 cancels, so I'm going to copy the 3x. And then we're going to subtract 78 minus 12 is 66. Now I have 3 touching the x. We don't want anyone touching our x because that's gross, so we're going to divide. We're going to divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is? Alright, hopefully you said 1. So that's 1x or just x. And then when I divide those, I get 22. Now, how do I know if my answer is right? I know you were thinking that, so let's check it. Let's duplicate this and just rewrite it over here. And we're going to copy everything down just like I have up here, except anytime I see an x, I'm going to put a blank in parentheses, just like this. Okay, I copied everything else, just put parentheses. Now the great news is you have a calculator with you, and your calculator will do all of this work for you. You're putting a 22 here instead of x because you said right here that x and 22 are the exact same thing. They're equal. So I can substitute a 22 instead of x every time I see an x. Now in my calculator I'm going to type 2 parentheses 22 parentheses plus 12 plus, you can put the parentheses here, 22 parentheses equals, and what it should say is 78. That's what mine said. And since those two are equal, I know that yes indeed I got the right answer. It's so simple to check your answer. Why not take those extra few seconds and do that? All right, this next problem. Again, I'm going to separate it like that. This time you have 2 x's on the same side, but this time they are on the right side together. So we'll go ahead and combine them. Always circle the sign that's in front, not the one after. So notice I didn't circle this plus. This plus goes with the 16. So always circle the sign in front. In this case, there was no symbol in front of the 4, so if I wanted to, I could put a plus sign there, because that's a positive 4x. So I have 4x and 2x. When I combine those two together, that gives me 6x. Now that I have that, everything that's not circled, I'm just going to copy. So 46 equals and plus 16. All right, the x is on the right side this time, so I'm going to get rid of things on the right and move them over to the left. To do that, this is plus 16, so I'm going to do minus 16 to both sides. That gives me 30, and now I have a 6 touching the x. I don't like anyone touching my x, that's gross, so I'm going to divide by 6. When I divide these, this gives me 1x, and over here this gives me 5, my favorite Spanish number, or 5. Now, of course, we can check our answer, which you've probably noticed I pretty much always do. So I'm going to copy this, move it over here. Now I know that I have the nice fancy copy button. You don't really have a copy button. So if you want to, what I would do if I were you would be just this step that I'm writing right here. Copy everything from this line, except whenever you see an x, you're going to put a blank. Just like that. Okay, let's pretend we're on Dora. Pretend I'm Dora. I look a lot like her, don't I? So pretend I'm Dora, and I'm going to ask, what should we put here instead of the x? Right, 5. Great job. All right, so we put a 5 there. If you don't watch Dora, that's not very funny, but for those of you who enjoy Dora, that was awesome. All right, start with a calculator, type 4 parentheses 5 parentheses plus 16 plus 2 parentheses 5 parentheses equals, and my calculator says 46. Again, since they match, I know that I'm correct. This is right. Easy to check your answer. Okay, now this one is a different type of problem. This time, notice we have a number touching parentheses. When this happens, we're going to take that number and we're going to multiply it by everything that's inside the parentheses. Now again, if I've got no number in front of x, I can put a 1. So that right there is a 1x. So I have negative 2 times 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. And then you just drop down the x. Now I have negative 2 times, remember the symbol goes with the number after it, so this is negative 4. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. Now I did this problem with 2 negatives because this is the thing that most people screw up the most often with distribution. This is called distribution. So if you have a negative here and a negative here, that will always give you a positive because a negative times a negative is a positive. So be very, very careful of that. All right, then I copy the equals 12. Now, just like usual, I can think of this magical line through here. And now x is on the left side, so I'm going to get rid of the lonely number on the left side. I'm going to minus 8. All right, 8 minus 8, that's going to cancel. And I'm left with negative 2x equals, and then 12 minus 8 is 4. Finally, I have a number touching my x. I don't like that, so let's divide. Those guys will cancel as usual and give me 1x, and then that gives me negative 2. So easy to check your answer. Of course we can do that, so let's go ahead and duplicate this. And then instead of x, what number should I put there? Hopefully you said negative 2, that's right. Okay, so I said negative 2 is x, so I'm going to put negative 2 right here instead of x, negative 2. And now I'm just going to type this into the calculator exactly the way it looks. Remember, parentheses are not just decorations, they're there for a reason. So negative 2, parentheses, negative 2, it's important you're using your negative signs right there and there, and then minus 4. This has to be a minus sign, not a negative sign. And then parentheses. Then hit equals, and my calculator says 12. You should have 12 also. Now, if you had put a negative symbol here, that would have meant you would have gotten an answer 16. So if you got the number 16, I think that's what you would have gotten, then that's what you did wrong. So this has to be negative 2, but then minus sign 4. All right, so negative 2 was my final answer. Okay, another one. This one a little bit trickier than the last, but mostly the same. All right, first step, we notice we have a number touching the parentheses. So I'm going to put a 1 here since there was no number, and then distribute or multiply the -3 times both of those. Okay, I'm going to have you hit pause, just fill in this part right here, and I'm going to copy everything else. So hit pause, fill this part in, and then come back to me. All right, it looks like you've done it. So let's fill in this part. So I have -3 times 1x. That should have given you -3x. And then I have -3 times -1. Negative times a negative is a positive. That's right, that should be a +3. So check yours, make sure you got a +3. If you didn't, this is your chance to change it. Now let me get rid of my box so that I can do some circling here. I have two like terms on the same side. Notice I only have one x on the left side, well, -3x, but there's only one term with an x. But there are two terms with numbers in them. There's a +3 and a +9. So I'm going to combine those two things. So I have everything else gets copied, but then 3 + 9 is a +12. So that's a +12. And now you should know what you're doing because everything's the same as it was before. Now, before I keep going though, I want you to notice that -3 did not get multiplied by the 9. The 9 was not inside parentheses, so it was not multiplied. The -3, the number on the outside, only gets multiplied by numbers on the inside of the parentheses. It will never multiply by something far out here like this. Okay, so now you should know what to do. Our x is on the right, so I'm going to subtract 12. And now I have -3 touching my x. As usual, I don't want anyone touching my x. And 3 divided by -3 is -1. So x equals -1. Can we check our answer? Yes, just like always, we can always check that answer. So I'm going to hit the magic duplicate button on my keyboard, and I'm going to copy exactly the way it looks. Except instead of x, what will I put? Hopefully you said -1. -1 will be correct because -1 is x. Alright, so now in the calculator I start with the equal sign, so right after the equal sign, -3 parentheses, -1 minus 1 parentheses plus 9. Type that into your calculator or into your brain, and you should get 15. 15 is what I had on the left side, so that works. This is correct. Okay, I feel like now I have done every type of difficult problem for you. Now you should know how to do this one. Go ahead, hit pause, give it a shot, and then come back. Alright, it looks like you got it. So here we go. First step was to multiply by 3. So I've got 3 times x and 3 times, ooh, I put a 1 there, sorry. 3 times 1 is 3, bring down the x. 3 times 8 is 24, and it's positive. After this, you have x on the left side, so we want to cancel plus 24. To cancel plus 24, we do minus 24. These cancel. I copy 3x, and this gives me -3. 3 is touching my x. I don't want that. And then I have x equals -1. To check the answer, and hopefully you did check it, of course, because you wanted to make sure you're right. To check the answer, we're going to copy it exactly the way it looks. Except instead of x, what will I put? Oh, good, you're getting great at this. So you put -1. Alright, so I typed this into my calculator. It ends up being 3 times 7, which is 21. And that's what I wanted it to be. Great news! I'm right again! That happens a lot. All right, now the time that people freak out and start to cry, curl under their desk, and they just don't know what to do because they see there are fractions. Now, don't be scared. You're bigger than a fraction. Don't let it bully you. First step, we're going to put a 1 in front of any x that does not have a number. Now, remember, we have the calculator that has a fraction button. The calculator will do the math for you. No need to freak out about a fraction. Fractions are our friends today. So you'll notice that there's an x here and there's another x here. They're both on the exact same side of the equation, right? So I can draw my line through there. They're on the same side. Since they're on the same side, I can just type them in the calculator and add them. So if this 2 were not there and that 4 were not there, we're just pretending, this would be 1 plus 1. My answer would be 2x, right? Okay, well, I can't just pretend they're not there. They really are there. So I'm just going to type them in the calculator. 1/2 plus 1/4. So in your calculator, type 1. Remember your fraction key looks like this, ABC. So you're typing 1. That bar means ABC. 2 plus 1. That bar again means ABC. 4. And then hit equals. And you should get 3/4. And then that x, I'm just going to copy it. Okay, not so bad, right? The calculator did the work for you. And now we just have one fraction touching an x. Remember, when we see a fraction touching our x, we get mad. We hit it so hard that it flips upside down. If this flipped upside down, 4 would be on top, 4 goes up, 3 goes down, and then I copy the same thing over here, 4, 3. Remember, this is a times sign. Okay, so now 3/3 cancels, 4/4 cancels. So I have x equals, and now I'm going to multiply this in my calculator. So this gives me 5/6. And that's all. Again, I just did 5 fraction 8 times 4 fraction 3. And I got 5/6. And that's all there was to it. As usual, yes, we can check our answers. It's not nearly as hard as you think, and since people are normally scared of fractions, these are good ones to check, because a lot of people are never sure if they've got it right. So I'm going to copy the same thing again. Because I don't have so much room, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm just going to erase my x's. Don't tell. Alright, so instead of x, what am I going to put? 5/6. Okay, well now I've got fractions within fractions, right? There was one x there before, right? And now instead of x, I'm going to put blanks here. Sorry, this is kind of messy. So in the blanks, I'm going to put my 5/6. Just like that. Okay, so on the calculator, type 1 fraction 2 parentheses 5 fraction 6 parentheses plus 1 fraction 4 parentheses 5 fraction 6 parentheses equals, and when you do that, you get 5/8, which is what we had here. If all of that mass turns out to be exactly the same, then you know for sure that this has to be right. Well done. Okay, here's another fraction. Notice that both of them are x's, both of them are on the exact same side of the equal sign, right? So let's put them together. We'll go ahead and circle those. Circle. Alright, so I have 2 fraction 3 plus 5 fraction 8. Now, when we do that, we're going to get something kind of crazy looking. That's all right. So go ahead, type this on your calculator, and I'll be right back. All right, so you typed 2 fraction 3 plus 5 fraction 8, and what did you get? Something crazy ugly, wasn't it? So you ended up with 1 and then this u thing, and then some number, and then 24. I think it was maybe like 7/24, something like that, right? So this u just is your calculator's way of telling you that this is 1 7/24. Okay? So what I need you to do is just instead, don't hit clear, just hit your second key. If you have an ugly fraction like this, that's why I say that the u means. The u means ugly. We don't want it to be ugly. So with this in your calculator still, hit second, and then the ABC button, and then most of you will need to hit equals, and now you'll have a very pretty fraction, which is 31/24, right? Okay, so everyone got 31/24? Great. All right, so next we have to get rid of that fraction. Just like we did before, we're going to hit the fraction so hard that it flips upside down. So 24 goes on top, 31 goes on bottom. The same thing happens over here. All right, so I'm going to hit 26 times 24 divided by 31 equals, and I'm going to get some ugly number again. It's going to be like 20 u some number over 31. I don't remember what the number is. And my calculator just ran out of batteries right in the middle of notes. Isn't that terrible? Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to take your calculator and again hit second fraction key equals, and now see what you get. Alright, and let's see what I get. It looks like I got 6/24 over 31. That's beautiful. Well done. Okay, let's do this one. This time I'm going to let you go ahead and give it a shot. Hit pause, try it, and then come back. Alright, it looks like you've got this. So your first step was to put a 1 right here. Then, since you noticed that, just like the others, these x's were on the same side, so we're going to add those two together. I've got 2/3 plus 1/2. For those of you who are great with fractions, that's 4/6 plus 3/6. So, in the end, you end up with 7/6. Now remember, immediately on your calculator you got 1 and 1/6, but then you hit second fraction equals, and that gave you 7/6. Copy the 7. Okay, now we have a fraction touching our x. As always, we hit it, we flip it upside down. Just like that. Then we have some canceling. 6's cancel, 7's cancel. And then I have an x equals, and then I do 7 times 6 over 7 on my calculator, and I get 6. That's correct. Excellent job. All right. Like always, we can check our answer. Let's do it. I don't have much room. I'm going to try. Oh good, there's white space. Perfect. Alright, so I'm going to check my answer, but instead of x, I'm going to put the number 6. So like before, since I don't have a lot of room, I am going to erase the x's. There we go, like that. And instead of x, I'm going to put the number 6, because we said that x equals 6. So if my pen will work, I put a 6 there and a 6 there. Alright, so you type this onto your calculator and see what you get. Go ahead, hit pause, do that, and I'll come back. Alright, it looks like you got it. So you type this in and you did indeed get 7. Since those two numbers are the same, this is good. Okay, so we have a garden. We have 44 feet of fence. We're going to fence the garden and put it against the house. So the house is here. We do not need a fence here. No fence there. So we need fence here, and here, and here. We have 44 feet of fence. We know that the house here is 12 feet wide. So this is 12. We don't know what this is, so I'll put X. We don't know what this is, so I'll put X. But total is going to be 44 feet. So this is kind of a perimeter problem, except we're not actually finding that side. All right, so here we go. We have this side plus this side plus this side. When I add them together, it's going to equal 44 feet. All right, so let's add the sides together. This is, we don't know how much, so I'll put X. This side is 12 feet. And this side we don't know, so I'm going to put X. Like usual, I'm going to put a 1 in front of X when I have no number in front of it. And I'm going to combine like terms. So I have 1X here and another X here. If I put those two X's together, that gives me 2 X's. And then I'm going to copy everything else. So plus 12 equals 44. Then let's subtract the 12. And I'm left with 32. Divide by 2. And I've run out of room. That was terrible. Let's try to fix it. Oh, it won't let me. There we go. Alright. So then divide those and we get X equals 16. So this side of the house is 16. And this side of the house is 16. Or I'm sorry, side of the fence. I mean, side of the fence is 16. So 16 plus 12 plus 16 is 44. So we know that we got the answer right. All right, everybody. Sadly, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you have done well. As always, come see me during office hours if you need help. Get that homework out and get going. Have an awesome day, everybody. Goodbye.